What's going on, everybody? Today, we don't have a regular FIFA Lille video. We have a video talking about the European Super League and what that could mean for football, what I think it means for football, what I think about it, and all that. All just talking about it and just, general whatever. If you guys have any comments, anything to say, any questions, down below, let me know. But yes, we'll get back to our regular content and stuff tomorrow. No, I have a second channel for this kind of stuff that I haven't posted on there in a while. I kind of wanted to get set with this before I moved on in there. But let's jump into this. We're going to skip by all that. Anyway, the European Super League, 12 clubs. Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, and then both Madrids, Barcelona, Juventus, Milan, and Inter have all decided to break off and form the European Super League, which is, or in theory, if everything goes the way they'd like it to go, in theory it's just another midweek tournament instead of the Champions League where they all kind of just play each other, and they're in theory 20 teams, 15 permanent teams, and 5 teams that can be relegated in and out. So it's just another midweek thing. Now, the difference between that, obviously, in the Champions League is 1, more games, and 2, more high-profile games, which, depending on who you are, would like, may not like. I don't particularly understand the sentiment that it would get boring playing those teams all the time, but we could, if you feel it would get boring, that's on you. If you watch a regular league already, and you watch, say, Liverpool, and Liverpool every year play the same 17, 18, 19 teams, and then then they just go on and do the same thing into the next league. I don't know what the difference is to me. I'm not bored by the Premier League. I wouldn't be bored by playing PSG and all these big teams all the time, Juventus, Barcelona. That wouldn't bore me every week. I don't personally get that sentiment, but we could skip on by that one. I'm not going to get too much into the format at how the tournament would work because it's a little bit early for that for me, depending on what teams get in. I also believe the tournament format is going to change a touch, if I had to guess, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So that would be a new midweek kind of tournament for the big clubs in the world. I'm not sure. As I said, there's a lot still to be kind of ironed out, I assume, especially considering the blowback. Now, there is quite a bit of blowback depending on where you're from or what you believe in the Super League and stuff like that. UEFA and all the leagues and stuff like that are going to blow back pretty hard on this. And, excuse me, and my thing, or what I think is the biggest issue, is that the fact that the 12 or 15 founders or whatever can't get relegated out of the league. That's probably the biggest thing, because that would have to be the only sentiment. Now, more money would come into the leagues that are a part of it, so that wouldn't be the issue, but the issue would definitely be, you can't get relegated out of it, so you can't. It kind of dumbs down a little bit. Something like what would be the Premier League or whatever league you're in, fighting for that top 4 spot may not be a necessity anymore for some of these big clubs. Obviously, winning the league, in theory, if they don't get kicked out of the league, would be the idea. But it's, as I said, a lot of this is still very much up in the air. UEFA have pushed back. They've said that they're just going to kick teams out of the leagues. They're going to kick them out of the Champions League, the Europa League, strip them of titles. Players won't be able to be playing in their national tournaments and their national teams and stuff. But that doesn't seem to deter these bigger clubs. I believe United left UEFA today. I believe that's what happened. Just up and left UEFA today. They seem rather serious. And the first time this came around a couple months ago, October, November, December, one of those times, or one of those months there, it seemed more like a threat. So it was like, we'll come out, we'll do this. Um, and then the same kind of threats came around then, and I thought maybe they'll negotiate, maybe they'll figure something out here. And then this time around, it came out that, got leaked a little bit, and then all 12 clubs got behind one another and just kind of put it out there. So now it's very much a real thing. Now, for people who don't think it's a real thing and that it's just a negotiating tactic, I think what United did today kind of pushes that out the window a little bit. And I think the fact that the 12 clubs all released a joint statement kind of puts that out the window a little bit. I do not think this is a negotiating tactic any longer. The problem that the big clubs are having is that they're not getting any help from the league. They're not getting any help in terms of what's going on with the virus and stuff like that. People being left out of stadiums and everything, and you can have your own opinion on the virus or whatever it may be, in terms of people crowding together, not crowding together, whatever it may be. The fact is, all these big clubs are losing millions and millions and millions and millions and millions, and the smaller clubs are on the verge of being gone completely. So they're getting no real help from the leagues, from the Champions League, all that kind of stuff. So they're kind of thought to fend for their own, and they know, in theory, that they can make more money, they could spread more money around, and they could run this better. And to think, make my cat jump on my keyboard over there, to think that UEFA and the FAs and the Premier League and all that aren't a mess is just patently false. So for me, I'm not super upset that this is happening. I thought this was always inevitable. If you watch sports in America like I do, this is coming for college football as well. It was kind of thrown out there a little bit a couple of years ago with college football, where the Power Five are just going to break off and do their own thing. I genuinely think that's coming still, and it's going to be very much like this situation here. It's just the leagues and the associations that control everything are, one, wildly corrupt, which is just, you can't really even fight against that point anymore. Qatar is the exact example, and I think the only reason PSG aren't currently a part of the founder groups or whatever it may be is because they're owned by Qatar pretty much. And once that World Cup finishes, I think they'd push to join if they could. So we'll see what happens there with PSG, but I think that's the scenario. But FIFA and UEFA are wildly corrupt, and this breakaway and their anger at the breakaway is 100% a product of they're going to lose money. It has nothing to do with them protecting the league statuses and stuff like that, or them protecting smaller clubs or whatever it may be. Whatever they push out has nothing to do with that. Just like it is with Sky Sports, this has nothing to do with that. Sky Sports helped push the Premier League into existence today. So they're only protecting their own interests as well. All these people are all protecting their own interests, and the Premier League, or these big clubs, have figured they can do it on their own without all these associations and without all these corporations or whatever holding them back, or running things and kind of screwing it up, whatever it may be. I mean, the Champions League just now, or today, put out their new Champions League format, and that's 100% to try and appease what the Super League is. The only reason they've even done that is, one, more games, right? 4 more teams, which means more games, which means more revenue, obviously. But to try appease the big clubs, because the big clubs know they could make way more, and they know that as a group they could make way more, and as leagues and everything like that, they could put more money into the leagues. The only thing I see that's an issue with the Super League is the fact that the big teams cannot be relegated out of it, and that's the only issue I could ever see. From what I saw, numbers wise, We're talking 2 or 3 times what the Champions League puts out into these leagues every year. Um, the big clubs obviously would be making money, they'd be profitable. A lot of people don't know that most of the clubs in England especially don't make money year on year. They just don't. And a lot of these clubs are running at a loss, and they were running at a loss before the virus. Um, a lot of these clubs who have prepped for financial fair play have been screwed because UEFA's just turned a blind eye to Milan, to Manchester City especially. I mean, Manchester City's punishment, if you want to call it that, was ridiculous. So, I mean, these clubs are just going to go on and do it themselves because nobody's doing it. Nobody's helping anyone. Everyone's just a part of this big corporation where there are quote unquote rules, and some clubs follow, some clubs don't. Some clubs make money, some clubs don't. And it's just a big mess. So the big clubs have decided that they can do it on their own. And if you think they cannot, you're just wrong on that aspect. You're just wrong. Most sporting things in general are there to make money. And if they're not making money, then they're just running at a loss and pouring money into it, and it's not worth their time. That aspect, to me, doesn't make any sense, where people are saying we're supposed to be run for the fans. That I get, that I understand, but you also can't pick something up and run it at a loss year on year on year on year on year. You can't just lose millions and millions and millions. I mean, Barcelona are £1 billion in debt in Spain. £1 billion or €1 billion, whatever it is. £1 billion. Where do you guys all think that money comes from? It comes straight out of your pockets. They take a loan out of the bank and they just keep on going. That's everyone's money. That's the taxpayers' money. It's just, and they keep doing it. And you want them to continue to do it your way, that way. Every club in England does it. Huge loan. Arsenal took out huge loans. Arsenal lost massive amounts of money this year. Most clubs have lost massive amounts of money this year. There are a couple of clubs who have gone extinct. Some clubs who are on the verge of extinction. You cannot continue this. The way it's running cannot continue, and then football in general would just fall off completely. This was always coming because nobody's making money, and the big clubs have decided that they're just not going to sit around and do it anymore. It's as simple as that. And you can't look at other things and like Sky. I cannot believe the press coming out of Sky. Can't believe it. It's ridiculous. They tried to charge £15 per game this year. It happened this year. They were trying to charge £15 per game for a game that wasn't on TV. It was like one game was running on TV. If your game wasn't running, it was like £15. They were doing that this year. There's no way. There's no way. Football gets more expensive every year for clubs, for fans, for not players, for clubs, for fans. It gets more expensive every single year. At some point, you have to start making more money, or it's not going to work. And when you hold the people who make the money back from making more money, right? The cities, the Arsenals, the Madrids, when they know they could double their profit up and they're losing or just breaking even, and you're holding them back from that, this is just what's going to happen. It's going to break. And it was always going to break. And this is it. And I understand some of the sentiment, as I said, where the big teams can't get relegated out of it, or the founder teams can't get relegated out of it. I understand that completely. I understand the fact that, I mean, it's just a lot. It's definitely a lot. For me, this is just ripping the Band-Aid off, because this has to happen. It just does. The regular football in itself cannot continue to go in the line it's going without a significant change. And a lot of people are putting that to the side at the moment during this. Just putting it off and just pretending that that aspect doesn't exist. That is the aspect that football as a whole cannot continue the way it's going without significant change. And everyone was looking around and kind of just ignoring it. And they've been ignoring it for a decade. Transfers get more and more expensive every year. Salaries get more expensive every time. It costs more and more because UEFA didn't push down on financial fair play. So the teams at the top just are going to continue to be at the top, and they're going to continue to be at the top now, but at least more money will flow in, and more money will flow into the leagues, and more money will flow into teams that wouldn't normally get money like this. It's just a jump up in money and a jump up in quality for everybody, in theory. Now, to me, I live in America, where going to a game is, it's especially if a soccer team comes over to play a preseason game, like Liverpool came over to play a preseason game, we went to go watch it at Fenway Park. We were seated halfway up in Fenway Park on the wall there, and it was $150 a ticket. When I see some of the people complaining about the ticket prices in England, it's like £60 a ticket, and I would kill for that. But if clubs continue to not make money, those are only going to get more expensive. Shirts are only going to get more expensive. Everything is going to get more expensive on the trajectory they're on right now before all this. If a club makes $1 billion in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it may be, if they triple up the profits they're making off the Champions League, your shirt prices aren't going to go up. They're just not. That's something you can actually fight back on. If Liverpool and Arsenal and City all lost £50 million this year, who do you think is going to pay for that? The fans. That's right. It's going to be the fans. It's not going to be the club. It's not going to be the players who are... We'll talk about the players in a minute, but I don't think the players are going to push back on this very hard. But the players are not going to pay for it. It's coming out of your pocket. The more money the club makes, in theory, the more money or the less money you would have to spend to keep it going. They won't need you like they need you now. They won't need you to spend and spend and spend. And that's what you're designed to do. Come in and spend and spend and spend. That's what it is. They want you to come in, pay £8 for a beer. They want you to come in, pay £100 for or £100 for a shirt. When you go on the internet to buy a shirt, I mean, all these shirts I have, they're $150 a piece. When I want a shirt here in America for an NFL team, it's like $50. You can cut it in a third, and I can get it. Cut it in a third. It's $150 for this shirt. And if I wanted a Giants shirt here, $50 maybe. That's because all these teams aren't reliant on the income that comes from fans. And it's better that way. I know a lot of people, obviously, you're the fans, and without the fans, the club doesn't exist. But the less reliant the club is on fans, the less expensive it is for you to be a supporter. It's just that simple. As for players and managers, I saw Tuchel's press conference today, and he didn't seem too bothered. He said, he trusts the club. So we'll see what anyone else says. Herrera was very much against it, from what I read. I don't remember exactly what he tweeted out. But he was very much against it. I saw Tony Cruz wasn't too... I mean, he was okay with it. Remember the interview last year? Someone had mentioned it. Last year or the year before. He just wanted some representation from the players. Players never really have a say in anything, and that's... I don't know how to fix that myself. You can get a union, I suppose, but I've never been a complete fan of unions. But he wasn't too against it. He was not too against it. As a fan, for me, this is a good thing. If it were to just replace the Champions League, or not even replace the Champions League, just go up a level from the Champions League. Just go up a level. It's just an added thing. And the Champions League can still go on. Top four from the Champions League get into the new league. And then, the Europa League winner can get into the new league. Whatever they want to do. I have a feeling in the end it'll be something similar to that. I have a feeling in the end the 12 founders won't be getting relegated, and then there'll be 8 spots. I have a feeling in the end this will all come together and smooth itself out in one big bunch. The Premier League, the other leagues cannot afford to completely drop these clubs. There's no way. There is absolutely no way. Sky couldn't afford it. The people who pay for the rights to the games couldn't afford it. There'd be no way. There'd be absolutely no way. Like NBC, where we watch our games, there'd be no way. If the Big Six were not a part of it, they'd be hemorrhaging money on the deal. Sky is hemorrhaging money as is. They definitely couldn't afford it. The Premier League couldn't afford it. The Champions League couldn't afford it. My thing with the Champions League is that they already have pretty big dips in viewership when big teams play small teams. There aren't too many people who force their way out of the way to go watch Manchester City play Ludogorets. There just aren't. And then when the idea of more people flat out are going to watch Manchester City play PSG every week, or Manchester City Real Madrid, Manchester City PSG, Liverpool, Juventus. Those games will be going on every week, and whether you watch it or not, in theory, like, you may have your opinion or whatever, there will be more people watching those games. There's more viewership on a game like that than there is on a game like Manchester City and, as we were saying, Ludogorets, Club Brugge, whatever. There's just more viewership. It's as simple as that. More people are going to watch. And if everybody on Twitter or wherever looked at it and went, I'm not going to watch, more people are still going to watch. And the world is changing. It's not just people in England who watch Manchester City anymore. It's not just people in Spain who watch Real Madrid. It's not just people in Italy who watch AC Milan. It's so easy now, worldwide, to get views on things. A lot of people don't know here in America, it was, for people under the age of 40, soccer is the second biggest sport outside the NFL. Nothing will probably ever pass the NFL in America. Soccer is the second biggest sport with people under 40 now. It'll be the second biggest sport permanently in a decade. Baseball is dying here. The NBA is in a lull. They'll go after someone else's viewership. I don't know. It's however you feel, obviously, it's different for everyone. I personally think it's a good thing. I personally think it's going to finish a good thing. I personally think it's here. And this is not going to be a pretty fight, I don't think. There will be players, managers, owners, fights, the government. I don't know what the government are going to do. I've read today that the government in England, or Parliament or whatever there, are going to look into it, but I don't know what that could do. The only thing I could think of was the thing that it was a law there that prevents you from. I just bloody read about it. Do anything to the detriment of other businesses. That's what I was looking at. But that doesn't seem to hold up with me, because they're going to be making more money. And they'd be making more money for all of European football. So they've been working on this for a very long time. I know it's just come out, and it's just come out before, maybe 6 months ago. You are wrong if they haven't been working on this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It's been a long time, and I imagine they've covered up every hole, and there could be lawsuits, there could be fights. This is going to happen. And I think it's going to happen, at least. I personally think it's going to happen. Um, we'll see. We'll see how players manage. We'll see how managers manage. We'll see what the leagues do. I have a really hard. There's so much leverage with the big clubs. They have so much leverage. I just don't see a world where the Premier League and Sky and La Liga live in a world without their big clubs. I just don't see it. I have I can't see it. I don't see how the Champions League survives. I don't see how the World Cup, those big tournaments survive if you're going to ban players. I don't see it. I do not see it. And I think personally the players are going to stay at their big clubs. There may be a couple who leave perhaps, but I think the big clubs are going to be able to keep their players. They're going to be doubling up salaries. They're going to be doubling up salaries. Here in America, on, say, a football team. We'll go with the Chiefs because this is the easiest example. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Dak Prescott's he's a top 10 kind of guy. Dak Prescott makes 42 million a year? He makes $42 million a year. When you see wages in England and you think, well, that's a lot of money. Sterling makes £300,000 a week. That's nothing. And those American owners and those owners who are not European know the kind of money they can bring in, know the kind of money they can give to the players. I mean, players like Sterling who make £300,000 a week now are going to be making $800,000 a week. Those huge players, Harry Kane, Salah, Mbappe, Ronaldo, Messi, and a couple years ago. The salaries now they're nothing. And you know what will happen if they do get kicked out and they continue with this? There are going to be players who are going to leave their clubs for free, and if they block transfers, leave their clubs for free, no compensation, no nothing, and end up at a big club in the Super League, and these small clubs aren't going to be making any money off transfers. It's as simple as that. That will happen. If you kick Liverpool City out of the Premier League and say they're keeping on with it, the big players are still on there. Liverpool's team looks the same. Manchester City's looks the same. They've just been kicked out of the Premier League and they're in the Super League, and that's it. And the big players are still there. What do you think's going to happen with transfers if they can't make any transfers, quote unquote? Once a player's out of contract, they really have no say. You could, in theory, just retire from UEFA, quote unquote, and then move. And then move. And they will pay you God knows how much money, and that'll be that. Like, say, what's a player that's a good player to do outside the big six? Leicester. Maybe Ndidi wanted to go somewhere. PSG were calling for Ndidi. He makes, what does he make? At maximum £150,000 a week at Leicester, probably. And PSG come along and say, just run your contract out. We're going to give you £600,000 a week. You're going to be playing in the Super League, playing with all these good players. That doesn't help anyone either, does it? And the big clubs are doing this. This is just something that's going to happen. And they've been 100% pushed. 100% pushed into this. I hate that they're just doing it for money. Sure, everything is for money. Everything you do now is for money. Everything is for money. That's why a lot of places are either moving up or moving down, because people who can't make money are kind of screwed in a way, where they envy people who can make money. And that's going to be a position here very, very soon in a lot of these. A lot of these clubs who are losing money week in and week out, who are afraid that maybe it won't work. You're going to get those. You're going to get teams, clubs who look at it and know they're going to make money. The teams in the lower end on some of these bigger divisions who know the parachute money is going to come from that league, that's extra money for them, better players for them. To me, it's all good. It's mostly all good. The only thing, as I said, I understand is the fact that the Founders can't be relegated out of it. I understand that. Everything else, to me, there's nothing. I don't see anything, any other issues there. But let me know. Let me know in the comments down below how you guys feel about it. It's obviously a very, very, very big story, and it'll affect how things go. How it'll affect FIFA, obviously I'm a FIFA YouTuber. How it'll affect me personally, or FIFA in general, we'll see. As I said, I don't expect anything crazy to happen in terms of splitting just yet. If they do split and they're out of the games, I don't know. I don't know. We'll come across that when we get to it. I don't think any of that is going to happen myself. I firmly believe there will be an agreement somewhere along the line where the Super League is just above the Champions League now and everything else is kind of just back in line. So we'll see. But for now, guys, that is it. Let me know how you feel in the comments, but I'll see y'all later.